Welcome to the More Life Podcast, where creatives, problem solvers, and entrepreneurs talk about squeezing more out and finding meaning in this crazy thing we call life. Let's dive in. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the More Life Podcast. I'm your host, Bart Anestin, if you're new around here. And today I just wanted to check in on you guys because it is the last solo episode of 2023. This has been quite the ride. If you listened last week, I was talking about what I normally do when I'm thinking about a year as it closes and talking about systems versus goals and how can you effectively plan, and by reviewing what's going on through your year. And it's been quite an interesting week since that episode was released. I had a few comments on our social media posts regarding this. People feel very inspired by this. It helps them, and it takes just a few minutes to go through those prompts. So if you have not heard the previous episode to this, very impactful. It's kind of a part one to this portion here on how to plan for 2024 as a creative agency or as an agency, even as a department, if you're like in a creative department at your workplace. And it just goes through a couple of prompts that kind of help you identify the highs and the lows and what got you to those highs and what got you to those lows. You're going to realize that those things are super important for what we're going to talk about today, because, again, we want to amplify the systems that are helping us feel good and healthy in our work, in our lives, and we want to diminish or find ways to circumvent the systems in our lives or our habits, because, we all have habits that we wish we didn't have. I wish I would just have a desire to put the socks into the hamper as soon as they come off my feet, but alas, somehow I just take them off and throw them on the floor, and this is not a good habit. This is not what we all wish we didn't have habits that, were not the greatest, and that we could maybe eliminate them from our lives, and that would allow us to achieve our goals. But alas, none of us are perfect. We are all but mere mortals. And we have to struggle the good and struggle the bad. And so to do things that are really cool and exciting to us personally, we will have to fight and build new connections and pathways inside of our habitual, synapses. And at the same time, we will always be fighting the version of ourselves that we wish we never were, and we wish that we could change. And that's kind of what we call life, is you try to outweigh the good from the bad by leaning into the things that are good. So before we dive into the rest of what we're going to be talking about today, I need you to do me a quick favor. I need you to subscribe. I need you to like. I need you to follow. Hit the notification bell. Wherever you're listening to this, we're on platforms like YouTube or Apple Podcast or Spotify. It tremendously helps the podcast and the show reach people and help people who are on the same journey as you and me, people who are creative professionally or by passion vocationally, people who are trying to elevate their game as creative professionals and creative entrepreneurs. Okay, like I mentioned, this is the last solo episode for the rest of the year. We're doing something really amazing and special. We've been planning for a couple of weeks now, and that is the mashup episodes that we've been putting together. We've kind of went through all the transcripts. It's pretty wild, and we didn't even go through all of them. All the recent transcripts, and find some of the best nuggets and match them up with other people who spoke about the similar things. So if you ever wanted to have a summary of some of these really cool topics like branding or production or about creative development or personal development or business, we're putting some of our best clips from the best guests inside there to be able to help you find, pieces of the podcast that maybe you haven't heard of before. So it will go back quite a bit in terms of our reservoir, because we're actually coming up to next week, episode 100. Man, I'm so excited of this milestone. I can't even begin to explain to you how great it feels to finally be here. It only took me 3 years, but you know what? Everything happens in its due time, and I'm thankful. I'm as thankful now as if this happened a year ago. It doesn't change how thankful I am. Thankful to have been able to have this many meaningful conversations, either with a guest or with myself. Thankful to be able to be introspective and to learn, and thankful to have made all these connections and to genuinely see people's lives change through a podcast. We are not the most popular podcast. We are not the number one podcast. We are not the funniest podcast, the most informative podcast, or even the most educational or high-ranking profile podcast. But we do have a community of people who enjoy learning, who enjoy being challenged creatively and seeing how hard they can push themselves to achieve their goals. And we're here to be the support team, the cheerleaders on the sidelines, cheering you on, giving you advice. So if you've been here for a while, for a hot minute, or if you've been here since the day one, congratulations. You've made it to episode 99, and next week you'll be at episode 100. It's a special guest. I'm not going to say who it is on this one, but we have lots of fun talking about growth and how far we've come. It's just a great episode. We've already recorded it, and it's super exciting. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for all the bonus mashup clips that we are going to have. They're going to be so much fun as well, because you're going to see multiple people all in one episode who are going to help you with the specific intent of what that episode is about. Okay. Like I mentioned last week, this year, 2023, has been successful, but a tough journey. And sometimes you got to be thankful for the tough journeys because they force you to slow down and they force you to think. And boy, oh boy, did we ever have the great pleasure of slowing down and thinking. I believe everybody who works for me would tell you that feels like a weird year. It doesn't feel the same. It feels like we've been moving slowly and backwards, and somehow we're going to hit our sales goals, which doesn't feel right. I feel like the numbers are lying to me, but numbers don't lie. But it definitely feels like something different happened throughout the year. And we're writing a blog post about this as well, to kind of hit the nail on the head on how to progress beyond just difficulties, but actually using those challenges and identifying them and taking the power away from them by identifying them and moving towards what you actually plan for the new year. But yes, you may be in a situation like me where you feel like this year was challenging, was full of more of challenges than successes, or you may feel like you've had more successes and less challenges. Either way, it doesn't change how you plan. We mentioned already that it's imperative, or at least it's very helpful, to go through those prompts that we talked about last week. Last week was a great episode as well. We talked about reviewing 2023 as the year that and you can talk about what kind of things marked the year. And then by the end of it, we talked about what things most drained your energy, what action that you kept doing that made me feel stuck. Okay, so those are just some of the prompts. But if you go through the entire thing, you might have some really good ideas of what you were feeling during that time. What made you feel accomplished? And that's a big one that's kind of hidden inside the list of prompts that we went through. And that's something that I use a lot. Sometimes I even go further back, the last 24 months. What made me feel accomplished? What was the really big thing that I was like, wow, we're actually taking some, giant steps, if I can use a jazz term here, towards some of our big objectives, excuse me. So we like to think about those type of things and write them down, and that's why we have the prompts. And then I take all of the information, that the conversations I've had with my teams, things that we didn't get to do this year that we want to plan to do the following year, and we say we're going to plan in reverse, right? We're going to kind of start to plug in reverse order what we're looking for. So again, for us, these are not goals as if these are the end result, but these are milestones. These are things that we're thinking, here's where our focus needs to be, and here's how we need to, quote unquote, change our habits to align with. So for us, obviously, every year, this is a business. So number one thing is money/profit. And for you, if you work in a department, maybe it's the budget, right? What is our budget goal this year? How much are we allowed to spend? And you need to write that down first. Everything else is going to be associated with that budget. For us, it's going to be a emphasis on profit. And we can talk a whole episode on this. There's actually a great book called Profit First by Mike. Ooh, I'm going to butcher the last name, so I'm not even going to say it. Just look up Profit First. And it's a game-changing way to think of your finances as a business, as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur. It will rock your world, just to make you think differently like a big corporation, and to preemptively decide what your profit is going to be by the end of the year. And that's what we do. We try to plan for what our profit is going to be by the end of the year. So again, first thing, we are a real business, so money is a big factor in what we do, because if we weren't making any money, I would have to do something else to supplement to be able to do this podcast and to have an agency or whatnot. So once we have that sorted out, there's two sides to this business, quote unquote, that are extremely important to me. So I have to think of things in terms of the company, the business, the creative partner, and the personal brand, Bart Anestin. And we've spoken about this multiple times since the beginning of fall, or maybe even late summer, about we are transitioning our focus a little bit to the personal brand side. And that means that we have to plan and execute things differently than what we would normally do. So this past year, I wrote a course on marketing. It was fantastic. Like the content's really good. The video is recorded. Course outline is done. We never released it, but we're going to release it in 2024. But we're going to have to do it on a new platform under my own brand. So what I like to do, again, like I'm saying, I'm taking a calendar of the whole year, and I'm plotting the things that I know that are going to be in here. So if I'm looking at the end goal is going to be the dollars and cents in my account. The end goal is going to be how many clients we service in our business, right? The business is a big driving factor in our financial gains, right? Like that's how we produce basically 99% of all of our income comes from creative partner. So we put sales goals, we break that down quarterly and say, these are the quarters and how much we want to create. If you want the tracker that I use, I will gladly put it. It's very basic, but it's the information that I want to see. So kind of create your own little dashboard to help you understand exactly where you are and helps you forecast a little bit. So that's a great tool. If you guys want to have that, drop comments. As well as, we put our content that we want to produce. Content is a great way that we allow ourselves to be interjected into the conversation. Okay, there's conversations happening all over in terms of branding and strategy and web development, and we want to be involved in those conversations. So, what our content strategy is going to be by the end of the year, and then obviously by every quarter leading up to that. That's like the business side. To us, that's kind of plug and play. We're not trying to change the game here. Personally, on a personal side, I'm trying to spend more time exclusively on sales and marketing. As the managing director of this company, it's imperative that I find people and ways to help me so that I don't have to do the things that anyone could do, and I only exclusively do the things that only I can do. And being the face of this brand and speaking with our prospective clients, that nobody else has that role except for me. And so I need to be good or get better at it. I don't assume to know everything. I'm very confident when I speak to clients, but at the same time, I know I can be better. In my tactic, in my approach, in my skill set. And so I'm planning already what I'm going to do in terms of my time to do that. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit of down the road here. We're going to talk a little bit about our ideal calendars and habit trackers. So that's the business side, right? Our content, our sales goals, client management, all that type of planning. I'm just dropping it into a calendar. You can do this literally by writing on a piece of paper all the 12 months spread out, and then just write down ideas for each month. And the biggest month that I have things written out is the month of December, because that's where I'm putting all the end of year goals. That's what I'm starting with. So I'm putting underneath the word December, I'm going to put in $1 million in sales revenue and $100,000 in profit. I'm just giving some fake numbers here, or are they fake? I don't know. And then I'm going to put in my content goal for the whole year. The whole year, I'm looking, to put like at least 200, 150 pieces of content out. These are not just random pictures of my lunch, but good pieces of content for the business. That's our blog, and that's our LinkedIn posts, that's our Instagram posts and stories and the like. Okay, anything related to the business. Then the part that I'm trying to focus on the most is the personal brand side. So maybe I'll change my color of my pen and I'll write down in the month of December what are the things that we're trying to do. So in December, we're trying to, by the end of December, I want to have maybe some content goals. How many pieces of content do I want to release personally within a year? And then we are also trying to launch a new website and a website platform so that we can sell our course. So maybe that will go in February. Our course launch might be March or May. And then we also have the podcast. How many podcasts does that mean I'm going to be recording solo? Okay, is that 26, 24, depending on how the holidays break? And how many guests do we need to have as well? We plot that in for every month. Every month we need to have 2 guests. I need to record twice by myself. I need to create a YouTube video that we create for our YouTube channel. And then we start to go through all the different other pieces that get aligned on top of that in terms of our content, whether it's a newsletter. Well, right now the newsletter is part of the business, but that's okay. Whatever it is, you're just writing out the pieces month by month, all these things that need to happen. And these things are not necessarily tasks, but they're more alignment tools to say, okay, here are the things that are going to allow me to get to that end result at the end of the year. Once you have a rough sketch, this is not a professional document by any stretch of the imagination, there's 2 rule of thumbs here in terms of how do you move forward. Some people use calendars and some people use habit trackers. I'm somebody who I'm just a calendar person. I was a Google Cal person for a very long time. It's called Calendars, but it's really good. And whatever app you're using, Outlook, doesn't matter, iCal, just get your calendar situation sorted out. And I make a calendar called Ideal Calendar. This is like what my ideal week would look like, and this is how I plan it. I plan it based on what the things I see in both my personal and business side that are happening. And I mean my personal brand and my business, because there's still a personal side, right? Like my actual real life. So I go in and I build what is the ideal Monday look like for me, right? How does that look like in light of me having these sales goals for both these sides of my business, in light of me being a husband and a father, in light of me having to record podcasts, in light of me having to record YouTube videos and have to have time to write them. So underneath all these things, I'm looking at where I can see the time is going to be required and how much time is going to be required for each one of these types of things, whether it's weekly or daily. A lot of these things are weekly, by the way. They're not daily. So I start building the ideal week because I have my routine business management, like our check-ins that we do with our team. I also have team meetings in terms of like our content and our creative department check-ins as well. So those things are unique. I also have a podcast meeting, so that's where we're planning out and executing on the podcast. So those meetings have to be fit into the schedule. That's what I mean where I'm saying we're kind of building it backwards, where we go through the end of the year, put our outcomes, fill in all the milestones for the things that we want to do. So just as an example, in the personal brand side of the business, we are emphasizing our public relations. A big part of us shifting our focus to the personal brand is getting exposure for me to be on different shows and different podcasts and be featured in different publications. So that takes effort and probably conversation. So if that's going to be an emphasis, how is it going to be an emphasis with my time? Is it a matter of having an hour twice a week? Is it a matter of having a meeting? Is it whatever it is? You got to put those ideals inside your calendar. If there are big events that are happening, you know, I'm a big fan of the Mind Your Own Business conference. I went not this year but the year previous, and it was excellent. We had a great time. But if it's something that I'm planning on this year, I write it down. It's in October. You know, the service industry that I'm in, I'm focusing on architects and interior designers. So there's NeoCon in June, and there's the interior design show in the early parts of the year. So whatever the big plans are, just write them down loosely inside a piece of paper, like I mentioned. Then start to build your calendar and kind of go through week by week. It sounds tedious, it sounds really hard, but there's only 52 weeks in a year. So you're going to go through week by week. You're going to see where all the birthdays are. You're going to see maybe for the birthdays for your teams. You're going to see where, maybe there's extra holidays, days that are going to be off. And I go through and I just highlight the things that matter to me the most. If you're a paper and pencil, bullet journal type person, you can do the exact same thing. This is going to help you plan out your year with thinking about, with thinking about the prompts, right, that we were talking about last week. Awareness for planning your new year. What's the one thing you really want or need in 2023, but you weren't able to do? Add those prompts into your calendar. Say, you know what, I really wanted to go on a team retreat or a solo retreat, and I never got to do it. I really wanted to have extra support and care, so maybe plan to join a group. Plan it now. Spend 20 minutes and go on meetups.com or find a Facebook group or find some type of community and say, hey, can we plan something in March? Just for like a Saturday? Maybe we just go get a pint and we sit down and we talk. Make the things that made you feel like you were missing a reality in the next year. This is the hack, for me at least. I go through my review, go through my favorite memories, what are the things that were the best, and I try to do more of those things. Like, again, if I'm going back 24 months instead of just 12 months, having a huge PR run was really great for us. We were featured in a magazine, and then we were featured in a online publication, and then I spoke at a conference, and then our podcast got listed #1 in creative arts in Canada. That happened all within like 6 months, and it felt great. How do we get back to that? This is why we're emphasizing personal development. So this is how you use the last week's prompts to infiltrate and to plan out this week. This week, you're kind of making a rough, ideal week inside your calendar by doing a very rough calendar on a piece of paper or on an iPad where you're just writing out the things that are happening in the month. Once you have that, you can now input specific things that help you. The other part of this is, and I'm going to be real with you guys, is the habit tracker. And quite honestly, I'm not there yet. A habit tracker just doesn't match my personality to check every little thing that I do to help me get to where I'm going. So if you're like me, you might work on the calendar where you just block out times for the things and you just make sure that you use the times only for those things. And also be nice to yourself. Block out time like every hour. Give yourself 5 minutes to either walk around or to go on social media or whatever to kind of give your brain a break. Your brain cannot just stay in absolute locked in focus for 8 hours a day. So give yourself a lunch break. Give yourself, maybe 30 minutes to kind of just let your mind wander and do those amazing YouTube and Google searches. But the habit tracker is if you are that serious administrative dot the I cross the T person, that's where you can take now your calendar and convert it into a habit tracker. What items is it going to take for me to be able to do this week consistently, day in and day out? Does it mean you're going to put, reading a chapter of a book every week? Does it mean you're going to put, cleaning up this or doing that? These items are the tools that are going to allow you to be prepared for your meetings, that are going to be able to allow you to be more direct with what your sales approach is going to be, your content producing. So if that's the way you're bent, go ahead, make a habit tracker and track those habits to change your habits. If you're more like me, my time dictates my success. So if I'm spending more time just lost in meetings, then I'm going to have great relationships with the people I'm having meetings with, and I'm not going to be able to accomplish my goals. But if I spend more time reading and writing, then all the content that I produce is going to be that much better. So I just dictate my time. Where do I spend my time? Where does that emphasis come from? And then that will determine how successful I am at it. Okay. Tons of information in this. There's no wrong or right way to plan for the next year, but you should take some time to kind of identify how is this year going to be different than the last year? How is this new year going to help me move further in development in every way than my previous year? This is why you need to find out what things drained you the most, what things that you kept doing made you feel stuck. What's one thing you keep recurrently telling yourself? These are the things that are going to help you. I hope that you find some peace and some time to kind of dig deeper and to itemize or at least identify how you felt about the good things and how you felt about the bad things and what you're going to do to change all of those things or grow them so that you can have a successful 2024. Thank you so much to all of you who've been listening. If you made it this far, I appreciate all of you. I will see you in the new year. Next week's going to be really fun. You're going to enjoy that episode. I've been Bart. Peace out.